Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, everyone, today for juz number 23. And we are back with Ustadha Nadda. Now, Ustadha Nadda has already done quite a few sessions for us, so I'd like to say Jazakallahu khairan for doing those sessions for us, Ustadha, and for being back with us again. So, again, as we said, Ramadan is going past very, very quickly. It's juz number 23 today already. So, inshallah, without taking any more time, I'd like to pass it on to Ustadha Nadda. Ustadha Nadda, over to you, inshallah. Bismillah.
Ustadh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone.
Alaikum assalam.
So let's begin with Juz 23. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, this one has a lot of surahs, and as we go towards the end of the Quran, towards the end, the surahs will also become a lot in one juz. So this is only 4 surahs, but still has so much information. So hopefully, I don't give too much information. But you can just take away a few lessons from this, because I know it can be a little bit too much overwhelming, especially for our students. So we will begin towards the end part of Surah Yasin, from verses 28 to 83. And this is again reinsurance, because these are all Meccan surahs revealed in Mecca. So faith in Allah, resurrection, and then there's a story of a man who was guiding his people, and the people didn't believe him and they ended up killing him. So there's a story of that, and again showing an emphasis on the oneness of Allah, the signs of Allah. Then moving on to Surah Asafat. So this surah goes on again on the principles of oneness of Allah, resurrection, and it talks about these few kind of images on how the paradise, how hellfire will be. And then we go into Surah Sad. That's again a Makki surah again, and the aim again is to deal with principles of the creed, meaning what we believe in, our faith, the oneness of Allah, the qualities of Allah, attributes of Allah. And then again glorifying the Quran and the reminder for mankind, people, prophets calling towards people, people following the choice they have in order to follow the leaders and the consequences of those. And then lastly, Surah Al-Zor, which goes in a little bit more detailed. It's a very detailed surah about the conversation of the people of hell and fire and what are the regrets they have. And then again, the emphasis on believing in Allah. So this is just a summary, an overview of what the Juz 23 consists of. The kind of main 3 themes that occur in all 4 of them is faith, repentance, and afterlife. Now, I know we have spoken about faith so many times, but this is the main, when it comes to Islam, that's the main kind of part, the main principle, for you even to enter into faith. In order for you to enter into Islam, the first thing is to believe in Allah. So this point, even though it's been mentioned so much, it's very important, because faith does not only mean that you have this belief by just saying it with your statement.
Ustadha Nadda, can I just stop you for a second? Sorry about that. I think there's something touching your mic, so it might be a cloth or something like that. Or maybe...
Okay.
Yeah, so it keeps on ruffling, so we can't hear you so clearly.
Okay.
Is it okay now? Jazakallah Ustadha. Sorry about
No, that's fine.
Okay,
That's
over to
fine.
you again. Jazakallah.
Thank you. That's fine. So then again, the theme of faith. So that's really important, that we believe in and we know what it means. Faith is tested by you when you are going through a hard time or a good time, and it's how you respond. That's also you trying to test your faith. Faith doesn't mean that you just believe in Allah and you just carry on with your life, your daily routine. Faith comes in place in every action you do, the conscious decision you're making, the way you respond to people, the actions you do when you're alone, your intentions, all of this is related to your faith. Because if you are not conscious of Allah and you don't have that faith, everything else revolves around it. Because if you don't actually believe in Allah and His principles and the commandments He set for you, then you're not going to be conscious of your actions. You're not going to really care about your intentions. You wouldn't want to do good things for other people because you don't have a purpose, because you don't have that faith ingrained in yourself. So it's really important that we understand what we mean by iman and faith and belief when it comes in the Quran so much, because at the end of the day we'll be tested for our faith, what's within our hearts when we go in front of Allah on the day of resurrection, on the day of judgment. So faith is very important, and I want all the students to take a moment and think about, when they say they believe in Allah, how much strength is in there, how much powerful and meaning and value you give to your faith. Because when we come into very difficult, hard times, when we are tested with wealth and illness, then that faith goes away. It's not any longer there. Because if we had true faith, then regardless of what circumstances you are in, your faith should be as strong as it can be. So really important that we understand what that means. Moving on to repentance, and this again is linked with faith. So if you have faith in Allah and you have hope in Allah, then regardless of the ups and downs that come into your life, the mistakes you make, you still get up and don't give up in Allah. As humans, we can give up on each other because that's the human nature, but we should never give up on Allah. So always remember that Allah will always, regardless of how severe your punishment, how severe is your sin, um, because He is the creator, He created us, so He has that power to forgive you. So always know that. Don't judge yourself on the basis of how humans judge you. Humans will never have the ability to forgive you, but Allah does have that ability. So never despair and think that if you've done something you can't go back. You can always go back to Allah, and that does not necessarily mean that you don't love Allah. If you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing and you are guilty of something, you should never ever think that you're not a good Muslim or you don't have that strong faith. It's just a test that Allah has given you. Allah still loves you. He has still given you the ability to believe in Him. And if you do have your shortcomings here and there, it's okay. Ask for repentance. And we have these last 10 days. Seek as much repentance as you can, but never ever think that Allah doesn't love you. So this is really important. And lastly, the afterlife. Everything that we're doing in this world is all connected to the reason that we're going to be accountable for our actions in the hereafter. So whatever we do here there's a purpose for this. If we didn't have the afterlife, then we wouldn't think about our actions. This life would have no purpose, and it would just be such difficult. We wouldn't have that peace that we sometimes get in this life if we didn't have anything to look forward to. So this is very important, the fact that what we do in this world doesn't end here. Sometimes things that happen which do not always have the good outcome, things sometimes are left over which are not complete, but we forget that the world, and when we die, that's not the end. That will be carried on to the next life. We will be questioned for it. We will be responsible for our actions. So to keep us in check of what we do in this world, that's why Allah has created the hereafter, and then obviously the hellfire and the paradise will come into that dimension as well. So just quickly speaking about Surah Yasin. There's so many virtues of Surah Yasin. For some, it's people refer it to as the heart of the Quran because of the kind of themes and the way it speaks of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, different verses, ayahs, and some people recite it in the morning first thing, after Fajr, before Fajr. So that's something else. Different virtues people have experienced with Surah Yasin. And the fact that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was going through a difficult time and he was migrating to Medina, when he left his house, he read the first few verses of Surah Yasin. So because of its revelation and the context, it's given a lot of importance. um, and one of my favorite verses from Surah Yasin is verse number 58, as I've put on the slide. Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. So every time I come across this verse, uh, I just have to stop and try to. It's so difficult to imagine that the salam that we, so often, sometimes, repeatedly say to other people, to our families, and we forget what that actually means. Granting peace, that may Allah's peace be upon you. We were so used to saying this statement, and then one day that same statement will be said by Allah to us. That Allah Himself will say to His believers, that may peace be upon you, that peace, salamun, is upon you from Allah. So just to take that moment out to think that Allah will one day say that to you, the same salam we used to say to each other. So I thought that that's the one of my favorite verses that makes me contemplate about Allah, and it's important that we think about Allah. That also, builds that kind of strong relationship with Him and the Quran, His statements, His miracles around us. So yeah, moving on to Surah Al-Safat and Surah Sad, that is describing the afterlife in detail as well. So there's conversations between the people of the hellfire and what they say to each other. They regret, they blame each other for what the wrongdoings they have done. Moving on to Surah Al-Zor, which again has very intense verses about paradise and hell. And lastly, the common feature in all of them is this conversation in about paradise and hell. And it's really important we understand sometimes, even though it's very overwhelming, and kids, especially students who are listening, it might be scary for you as well to think of the punishments and the severity of that punishment, and sometimes the details the verses go into. And if you're students of Arabic, then when you go into the actual details of the Arabic words and the nouns and the way it's been written, the sentence structure, it just gives more emphasis to that meaning and those punishments. So naturally, it's very scary when we think of those punishments. But there's a reason why Allah has said those. If we do, even in our the kind of tests that we face in this life, if we don't have a kind of a bad result. So for example, if I can give you an example that you can relate to, if you know that you can always, for example, cheat in your exams, and there's no outcome for it, it's completely fine, the teachers won't do anything about it, and it's okay, everybody will be fine, or you always get away with cheating or something along those lines. You don't understand how much of an impact it's having on you as a character. So it might start off very small where you're just cheating in exams, but then slowly you will start doing other actions that makes it even more badder, where you start to steal things as well, because every time you're trying to get away with wrong things, you end up doing more of that in your life, and then you end up, for example, stealing from shops. That increases to you hurting someone, because you're getting so you're getting away with it so often that you're forgetting how worse you're getting into that same character or that trait. So punishment is important and reward is important, because it kind of reminds us which one we want to go towards. And that brings us to our free will and intellect that Allah has given us. With any other creation, that's not the same case. With humans, we have an intellect and we have a conscious. And having those two things, and then yet to know the differentiation between what's wrong and right, and you still go towards the wrong, and then you don't have any, for example, circumstances or consequences for those actions, then there's no point of right or wrong. If you don't have the consequences in place, then you can do whatever you want. So the reason why Allah has put so much emphasis, and there's so much greatness in the fact that Allah has already told us what's going to happen in the hereafter and the conversations they're going to have. And it's just going to be the same old, excuses and saying that, it's your fault and you told us to do this and that's why we're here. Um, so Allah is really emphasis and He's giving you this picture that this is exactly what's going to happen. I have given you a free will, I have given you a conscience, and this is the Quran that I have presented to you. I've given you all the prophets. I have shown you these signs around you. I have set so many reminders, and yet with the conscious and free will you've been given, knowing what's right and wrong, if you're going to decide towards a wrong action, then that's the consequences that is set for you. And this is how Allah is fair. He's the most He's the judge of all judges. So He's laid out these things for us, and it's all there. It's not hidden from us. So it's really important uh, that we take conscious of the reason why we're here. When we read these verses, we should make dua that Allah guide us. And as long as you're trying and you're being conscious and you have that fear in yourself, that will keep you in check. So don't always think that Allah is trying to scare us more, or there's such severe punishments and I won't be able to, how will I be able to cope, and uh, it is so difficult to get into paradise and I can't do this action and I can't read the prayers. I don't understand this, and there's so many temptations in this world. But always know that as long as you have that faith, which I emphasized at the beginning, and you're repenting, then inshallah you will have a good outcome. And the reason why you need to keep trying is Allah has placed those consequences in place. You know what the consequences are. So as long as you have the faith and the repentance going on with yourself, you're repenting to Allah, then inshallah your outcome in the end will be good as well. And also to just end with this verse which Allah mentions in the middle, in the middle of the surahs, uh, that O my servant who have believed, fear your Lord, and for those who do good in this world, there is good for them, and the earth of Allah is spacious. So the fact that there's different meanings to what that means. Wasi'ah, meaning that Allah can grant ways for you from places that you can't imagine. He will create things. He will make things easy for you as long as you believe in Allah. You fear. You're fearful towards the actions and the consequences, and you try to do good, then inshallah Allah will help you throughout your journey. And obviously for those who are being patient, regardless of things are not going right and you're confused and you don't know what's going on, that in itself is patience within yourself too. Where you're trying your hardest, things are still not going the right way. You don't know if you actually what your outcome will be, but you're still trying, you're being patient with yourself, then that in itself there will be a reward that we don't even know how much Allah will reward us for that. So the lesson I want you to take away from these 4 surahs is the balance of hope and fear. Sometimes we are too hopeful from Allah, and we keep doing the wrong actions again and again, thinking that we're not going to be accountable of that. No, you should always have that fear, to remember that there are consequences for our actions. But inshallah, if we keep trying and giving our best, then there's no doubt that Allah loves us. He knows that we believe in Him. And at times in the world we live in, it's difficult with technology, time management, with the fact that we live with different people around us who believe in different faiths, and it's confusing at times. Sometimes when friends ask you questions about your religion and it doesn't make sense, you don't know what this verse is saying. And there's culture involved where your family is saying one thing and you listen to another imam and he's saying something else. So there is a lot of confusion. But remember, the center of all of this is Allah. So if nothing is making sense and you don't know what's going on, go back to Allah, speak to Allah, seek guidance from Him, and inshallah He will guide you. So the lessons takeaway is always have that hope and faith in Allah, and inshallah things will go better. And yeah, Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallah, Jazakallah khairan Ustada, for all of that. And mashallah, lots of students are here today as well. Well, sorry about the delay initially, that was down to me. So just want to say Jazakallah to all students for being here as well. And wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our students who are here. That's Fiza and Ibrahim, Zahra, Hussein, who's always here with us as well. Our one of our new online students, Amir Rawat, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Ustad Shaz Zahra is saying, Ustad, we raised £10,000 in 7 days, mashallah, and that's all down to our students, our staff, and all of you wonderful people who are doing this, inshallah. And we're hoping to raise up to £20,000, hopefully by the end of Ramadan, if not by the end of this month, so we can get back to the actual building in a COVID safe manner, and inshallah be able to learn back in the classrooms with our teachers, so it feels more real. We have not seen each other, we haven't seen our students for over a year now, and we do miss our students. But however, our students have done fantastic when it comes to showing their passion in raising these funds for madrasa. So inshallah, we will be back. We're going to wait for another week or 2 weeks until we find out which building we're going to go back to. It's going to be in Walthamstow, so not too far. Inshallah, we will do that. Also, wa alaikum assalam to Mehwish as well. And also, there was a question actually I wanted to bring up. This is from Fizza and Ibrahim. What is intellectual and conscious or conscientious? Ustadha Nadda, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I hope I respond this correctly. Conscious is when you are aware that someone is watching you, so someone's being looking over you. So you are more kind of aware of the actions you're doing. So you know that you're not alone and someone's watching you. And intellect is you having the ability to know what's right and wrong. So yeah. Ustad?
Yep, sorry about that. Yeah, so just wanted to say Jazakallah to Ustad Shazia and Zahra for that suggestion. So let's get fundraising. We have Fizza and Ibrahim who have put up their link in the comments. So if you want to donate, you can donate to Fizza and Ibrahim's campaign page. And mashallah, all our students are doing a fantastic job, mashallah. I just saw a little, some minutes ago, campaign from one of our younger students, and I smiled and I gave a thumbs up emoji, and the parent responded by saying, we don't want your emojis, we want your money. So therefore I was forced to donate again to our madrasa. So yeah, so do inshallah. It's the last 10 days of Ramadan. Let's donate inshallah and get back to the building. We will continue inshallah online things as well, so the way we're doing now, we're not going to stop that, because I think it has been beneficial. But we really feel that our students would do better with both. So we will continue online, but at the same time, but by online, I'm talking about these sessions, not the madrasa weekend sessions. That, inshallah, we want to have in the building. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. Jazakallahu khairan. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.